All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. Glad you decided you wanted to learn Markdown, the formatting language of the internet. I promise you this will be a really quick presentation. There's not really a whole lot to learn, just a little bit of syntax, and you don't need any special tooling. You quite literally can use a plain text editor like Notepad, Vim, Nano, just anything that'll take plain text. Just knowing a few of the key formatting characters that I'll show you here momentarily is really all you need to know to make wonderful web-ready documents that you can open up with any text editor or Markdown file editor that you wish. So you're probably wondering what types of documents do you see Markdown used in? Well, for example, go ahead and pull over my little presentation notes I've got saved here on my GitHub repository right now that I'll share the link with everyone later. This entire document right here is all made with Markdown. You'll see that there are quite a few other repositories that have documents that'll be in them. Let me switch over here and go to another one. Let's see, show you the recent VMware code presentation that I did that was recorded yesterday. So if we go down to presentation.markdown, we'll see that I've got my entire slide deck here that I created with Marpit that uses the Markdown language, all available here. So you're wondering, well, how do I get all this in just a plain text editor? Well, let me show you some of the code. Let's view the raw file. On the raw, there we go. See if I can, all right, there we go. Some of the syntax you'll see, like right here, I've got a heading file. The heading is just denoted with a single pound symbol. That's a heading level 1. So you'll notice that, if we go back to that view, escape key, okay, that's not going to work. There we go. You'll see that, that's pretty much a heading level 1. I've got list items here, which are simply just a minus symbol with a space and type in your list item. Same thing for bulleted lists. I don't have any tables in this document, but each one of these are a different slide deck that's basically just, in essence, Markdown code. So I'll show you guys more how to do that later. It was just kind of a quick example. So if we go back to, bear with me just a moment. If we go back to our example use cases, let's just talk about a few of those right now. As some of you know, that I do a little bit of blogging on the side. All the articles that I write for adamtheautomator.com have all been done in Markdown. They look nice and pretty in the web interface of the blogging platform that he uses. But on the back end, everything I write is done in Markdown. It's just imported into, I believe, WordPress. You can make a resume with Markdown. It's something that I did not too long ago, and also it's available on my GitHub repository if you want to take a look. It's kind of a neat way to do that because you can actually export that and import that into a lot of different platforms fairly easily. If you need to make a PDF to upload, it's fairly easy to do with just a couple of extensions within Visual Studio Code, for example. I already mentioned that we can do slide decks with Markdown using the Marpit utility. That's actually a really cool piece of software. I'll demo that here in just a little bit. You can also make static web pages or blogs. Static web pages, if you use a platform such as Hugo, you can do a lot of static web content, again, just using plain Markdown files. What this demonstration is going to go over, though, is how to create Markdown documentation. So if you do a lot of documentation work and you need to have it accessible to anybody on any device, this will be a good presentation to watch. You're going to be pretty surprised by how easy it is to pick up on, even with just a little bit of practice. Some pages will even say that you can learn Markdown in as little as 10 minutes. I'm going to aim for that to be just a little bit faster, but I'm going to go into a little more detail and examples. So you can write books with Markdown. A recent example, if anyone's an Ansible fan, if you've seen the Ansible or Becoming Ansible book from Josh Duffney, he wrote the entire thing in Markdown using ASCII docs. It's a great publishing platform if you want to take a look at that. There will be a link to that as well in the post-presentation notes. Also, the PowerShell Conference Book, Volume 1, 2, 3, and eventually 4, when that starts, have all been written in Markdown through LeanPub. So as you can see, there's a lot of different use cases for Markdown. So that's why it's it's referred to as the formatting language of the internet. Pretty much any document that you find on the web is either written in Markdown or a form of Markdown with some HTML tags within it. So with that, we're going to go over a couple of different just tidbits of information that you'll want to know. There are a lot of different Markdown flavors out there. The one that we're going to focus on now in this presentation is Common Mark. Common Mark is the granddaddy of them all. Every Markdown formatting flavor has its roots in Markdown, so that's why we're going to focus on that version because it's the most common, hence Common Mark. Some of the editors that you can use, I've got one on the screen here right now that's just a basic open source HTML5 web browser-based Markdown editor and previewer known as Dillinger. You can go to dillinger.io right now if you want to follow along, and you can do some live coding along with me and see the results. Other Markdown tools that you can use, I've mentioned that you can use Notepad, Notepad++, Vim, Nano. Any plain text editor will do. The only thing you just don't get is the Markdown preview with some of them, but hey, as long as you save it with a .md at the end of the file for the file extension, any Markdown viewer will be able to view it. All right, so if you're all ready to start learning Markdown, I'm going to start off by jumping right into our first let's get back here. Right into our first formatting symbol. We're going to start with a header. So the headers, there's 3 to 4 different levels of headers. So you simply just type a pound symbol, and we'll just type, this is header 1. So that would be a standard document heading that if you were giving a document a title, you'd start out with a single header level 1. So if we'll skip a couple of lines here, this is just some plain text. That's all you have to do, just type, and it'll be plain text. So if we want to skip down, let's go ahead and make a header level 2. It's easy, you just go double pound. This is H2, and we'll do 3, heading level 3. Now you can keep going smaller and smaller, but the Common Mark standard stops at 3. Some platforms will recognize 4. Some will recognize even smaller than that. We'll go 5. But as you can see, it just keeps going and going. We'll do 6 this time. Not 3, 6. So you're rarely ever going to see something that goes past a level 4, to be honest. But as you can see, Dillinger does recognize that. Now you'll notice that some Markdown editors will not allow that. One off the top of my head that I can give you an example of would be ghost.so, or not ghost.so, sorry, notion.so. If you're not familiar with Notion, Notion's also an online Markdown note-taking application that you can also use to you know, export your Markdown directly to a blog post if you wanted to. H4, for example, just shows up as literally 4 pound symbols and then whatever your H4 title is. It doesn't actually render it as Markdown in the preview. But the platform that you import it into may recognize that, so it'll show up as H4 as we see right here. So that's literally it for headers. It's the pound symbol. So put a pound symbol in, and whatever heading level you want, just put in 1, 2, or 3, followed by a space, and then whatever you want your title to be. So let's go ahead and do some more text formatting. So let me go back here. We'll just call this formatting text. So the basics that you'll see in any text document, you'll see a lot of bold and some italics used to add emphasis to certain words or phrases or even quotes. Again, doing that in Markdown is fairly simple. One way to do it is just by using a single asterisk. So if we do asterisk and say this is italics, you'll notice that now it's italicized. If you wanted to make that same text bold, we'll start off with a double asterisk. And now that text is bold. There are some other Markdown symbols that you can use. Let me pull my page up here. And I'll have some other links to, cheat sheets, so to say, for you at the end of this presentation. So if you wanted to make like something superscript, there's formatting for that as well, but usually it's based on what flavor you use. With it being common mark, we're not going to have anything for superscript per se, but you can do block quotes. So let's go ahead and just start a block quote and just use a right arrow followed by what we want the block quote to say. And as you can see, what it does here in Markdown preview, formats it as a block quote. So we can have just regular plain Jane text here. Too many. And I don't want to make a screenshot. Sorry about that. So we can go down an arrow here, and let's just keep making some more text. Okay, so that's actually in my block quote there. Need to add a space. There we go. Spacing is also very important in Markdown as well. So every time you have the ending of, like, say, this paragraph right here, best practice is to go ahead and add a space so it doesn't get confused and, say if we just backspace this one here, add it into the same call out block. So you don't have to keep repeating that right character or right arrow every time you want to do a new line. You just do it once, and then whatever's followed by that until there's a space to break that. So go ahead, paragraph. All right. And that's pretty much it for formatting text. The basics are right there. Let's go ahead and let's jump over to making some lists. You'll see list common, at least in my documentation examples. I use list quite a bit, both numbered and bulleted. You might see some of those as well in other documentation that you read online. So to do that in Markdown, let's go ahead. Example. Okay, so to start a list, you can quite literally do a single asterisk and type in your list item. So list item 1. And you'll notice that in Dillinger, it automatically assumes that I'm going to have another list item when I hit return. So it's nice enough to put that asterisk there for me. If you're using a plain text editor, of course, you won't have that. So you'll need to add that in as well. So we just continue on list item 2. 3, 4, and so on and so forth. So let's say you didn't want to have a bulleted list, but you wanted to use a numbered list instead. That's quite simple. You'd literally just put, you know, list item 1. Again, you'll notice that number 2 appears when I hit return. So list item 2, 3, not tray, 3, learn to spell, Bill, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. Alternatively, you can do, backspace this, you can also use a round brace to denote a list. And you'll see that it renders the exact same way. So it's really just whatever you're used to. I'm used to using a number and a dot to delineate my numbered list. So with that, like I said, that's pretty much all you need to know for making lists. It's a simple asterisk, or even, let me go show you one more here. You can use a dash, list 2, list 3, and you'll see that it marks the same way. What I like to use the dash and the number, the actual number with a period at the end of it to, you know, make my list. But you can see that you've got a little bit of leeway that you can do there. There's actually one more that you can do, but I'm not going to show you that because it's another one of those that doesn't really render that well outside of Common Mark. Okay, so next up, I'm going to do some code examples. This is what I use Markdown a lot for, especially in a lot of the writing I do. So to make a code example, let's just make we'll start off with a simple PowerShell code block. So I'm going to code example. All right, to start a block, you use the grave accent, or backtick as some folks will call it. So let's just do an inline code example. So say we're saying, you know, you want to tell somebody, you know, how to do a get service command to pull the bit service. So you can say, okay, you know, this commandlet, and then we'll just do a single backtick, and we'll say get service, and a backtick again. We'll actually change the formatting of the code and highlight it in red in this preview. Some other engines will actually change these colors, but usually this is the default of what a code example would look like. So if you're calling out a specific command or a variable, use the backticks when you go to do that, and it'll format it in line, or what you'll see it referred to as inline code formatting. So if you wanted to do an actual code example, you can do this. You can actually create a code block, and that just adds a couple more backticks. So we'll start out with 3 backticks, and the best practice is to actually call the language that you're wanting to do. So in this example, we'll just go ahead and do PowerShell, and then we'll hit return. I'll go ahead and type some basic commands in. So get service, service name, and do single quotes, bits. Select object, property, yeah, we'll just call it, yeah, I just want just the name, why not? And that's it for my code block example. So I'll just end that with another 3 backticks, and you'll see that it's rendered here as an actual code block. So we can have more code in there if we wanted to. Let's go ahead and add a comment block. In our code block. Sometimes these are also referred to as code fences. I don't really ever refer to them as that. I just call them code blocks within Markdown, but just another term to know. So as you see, it actually formats our PowerShell code how we would normally see it when it's rendered in our IDEs or on the web. And as you can see, it was just done with a couple of backticks to create that code block. You can do the same thing with other languages. So let's do a code example using Python. We'll start off with a Python. And go up here. Bear with me here. My Python knowledge is somewhat limited. Hello, world. And don't forget my end character. So as you can see, it printed, it formatted it using, Python syntax. You can do the same thing with Bash, C#. There's a lot of different programming languages that you can use, but you always want to call it out up there so, different engines will know how to basically apply syntax highlighting to different parts of your code. And that's really all there is to it as far as formatting code and documentation. One other formatting item that I'm looking at here that I wanted to show you. You'll see that if you ever run into some of the older, well, let's put it this way. If any of you have ever done any web page work in the past with simple HTML documents, you're probably familiar with horizontal rules. To do a horizontal rule in Markdown, it's quite simply just 3 dashes. So we'll go here and just dash, dash, dash. And you'll see there's a horizontal rule. Let's go ahead and make another one. Dash, dash, dash. Alternatively, you can use the asterisk key as well. 1, 2, 3. And that'll make a horizontal rule. Let's see here. Okay. Horizontal rule. Okay, so enough of doing text. Let's get into a couple more advanced items. You're probably wondering, well, I want my documents to have some tables, maybe some links to different web pages or different resources, and maybe I want to have an image or two. So let's go ahead and go over how to make a quick table. So let's go ahead, table, example. So tables take a little bit more effort to set up, but you're going to use the pipe symbol. And let's see, this is a header cell or cell header. Another cell header. And we'll just go ahead and just stick with 2 for now. So you'll do a return, and we're going to just do, I believe it's 3. Bear with me just a moment here. Got to go back and look at my own examples and make sure I get the syntax right. So for this, we'll just do another comma, colon, dot, 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 colon. And if you can see there, let me zoom in. These are kind of hard to see at times. You see that I'm using a pipe, that was annoying, a colon, 3 dashes, another colon, and a pipe. So we're going to do that for another cell. So let's go ahead and just do colon, dash, 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 colon, and pipe to end our table. Now you'll notice that the formatting's changed a little bit here. You'll now see that we actually have some cells. So let's go ahead and add some values below that. Again, we'll start out with, the pipe symbol to delineate that we're going to start a cell, and we'll just call value 1, value 2. We'll hit return again, value 3, value 4. And you can keep going on and on like that. And you'll notice too that it also shades every other cell. So that's how you can make a quick table within Markdown. And it looks like we're running up on about 24 minutes now. So let's go ahead and let's do a link example. Let me zoom back out here a little bit. To put in links, if you're familiar with a little bit of HTML, you'll notice that this kind of looks similar. So we'll do our alternative text. So that's just 2 round brackets. Say link to google.com. And we'll get out of there. And now we'll go with 2 square, or sorry, I'm mixing that up. I need square brackets first. So let's go square bracket. Square bracket is our alternative text. And round brackets is where we'll put the actual URL in. So in this case, we'll do HTTPS www.google.com. And you'll see that that has instantly formatted this as a link that we can click on in that document. So close here. And I close Dillinger. I didn't have enough coffee this evening. Bear with me just a moment. All right. Go back. Recovered my document. Great. So with images are kind of the same way. We're going to start those off with a pound symbol, or not a pound, an exclamation mark, followed by our alternate text, which is in our square brackets. And that's the alternate text.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Did you mean to share your screen back out? Because it's not.
My apologies. Let me put that back up here.
No problem.
That's embarrassing. Okay, is it back?
Yep, it's back.
Okay. All right, well, let me go back to where I was at then. The alternate text starts out with an exclamation mark, and then we put in our square brackets again, what we want that text to say if the image doesn't load for whatever reason. And we'll just go ahead and put this back into round brackets and grab a URL to a sample image here. And let's see. Pick a small, there we go. That looks good. And link. All right. That's probably not going to show up, but you'll see here the image link is broken, so we know that the alternate text works. Right. Let me get a different image here. Let's do this one. Make sure that's a, yep, that'll work. Okay, so I'll just put that in that JPEG right there, and instantly we have a image that we've linked to in our Markdown file. And back here. So taking all this knowledge now, because that's really all that you're going to find in a lot of Markdown documents is just those basic syntaxes. Let's go ahead and apply the knowledge that we have now. So let's go ahead and create a sample document from the ground up. And again, this document will be available in my GitHub repository, and that link will be sent out later. So it helps to kind of plan your document out. So if you know how you're going to structure it, it's easy to make quick notes. So we're going to create this sample document that we're going to give to a junior sysadmin for a real simple process for adding a PowerShell scheduled job. So we know that our sections of the document are going to need a brief description of the process and headers for each of those sections. We're going to need a simple checklist of just 3 items that we want our junior sysadmin to look at. We're going to create a table of what he or she should see of some expected configuration data to use as a reference. We'll put an ordered list in, of course, for the process they need to follow. We'll add an image related to the process, and then we'll link a URL. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and start this out. See if we can do this in a few seconds here. So we'll start out with just do our first heading, adding a PowerShell scheduled job. Okay. So we've got our first heading, and we'll add our description layer. Again, you'll see that we're going to have some different formatting steps in here. So we're creating a second level header, just typing out our plain text. We are using the italics and bold, as you can see here in the right-hand side of the screen. And we did bold again for our junior systems administrator here. So let's go ahead and hit enter, give another blank line. And now we want to do a level 3. So we're going to create a simple list here. It's going to be an unordered, an ordered list. No, sorry, unordered list. Again, need more coffee. So we're doing our header level 3 with our unordered list. You notice I used the dash mark here, and we listed everything out, and then bolded some text again. So we'll get another space. And now we're going to put our table together. And as you can see here, we've got our pipes for each of our cell headers. You'll see that I've also changed something here too. You don't necessarily need the colon in there. So if you can remember just, hey, I just need a pipe on both ends and 3 dash marks, that delineates the number of cells and rows that I'm going to have. So I'm going to have a total of 4 cells here, and then however many rows I have below that, you'll need to have a value for each one of those separated by a pipe. The pipe is something I put on the end of each row that I'm going to make, just so I know that that's the end of the row. You don't have to have it there, but it's always good practice just to get in the habit of putting it there. It'll make it easier for you to read in the future. So we've added our table to our document. Go ahead and space. We're going to add another section, another level 2 section. And let's go ahead and add our ordered list and steps this time. This time it's going to have some code blocks in the actual list. And that should round out our document. So if we scroll down here, you'll see that I've got a code block all set up and ready to go within the document. And what we can do now is we can actually, this is something specific to Dillinger.io, by the way. There are a couple of other editors that will do similar to what we're about to do. If you've ever heard of StackEdit, StackEdit's another really good web browser-based Markdown tool that has GitHub integration, Google Docs, Dropbox, things like that. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and export this as Markdown. And you can see that it gave us this formatted document right here. So let me open it up in Visual Studio Code. And you'll see here, it's literally plain text. So I can open this document up in a regular text editor. Go back here. Start it again. This time we'll show it in the folder. Here. Open with Apps, Notepad. There we go.
Yeah, it doesn't have that shared out. So all we can see is a box over top of the Dillinger screen.
Sorry about that. Hang on a second here.
That's okay. I think it's a Zoom issue without being able to do the whole screen shared out. I think you have to switch each screen you want to share out.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, you're right. Sorry about that. Well, anyways, you can see the Notepad example right here, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So again, it's a Markdown file. You can open it up with any plain text editor, as I'm doing here. Now, it won't look as pretty as it does when it's being rendered, but you get the idea. Go back to the other screen here. Share. All right. So what we can do, you can also export this as HTML or styled HTML if you prefer. And should show you this now. So you can add this to a static web page pretty quickly. So everything's rendered out as you'd expect on just like we saw in our Markdown. We've got formatted code blocks here with syntax highlighting. We've got an easy, simple table here with different headers, different list items. You know, a very, very clean looking document. Almost something you would see in a book or, you know, boring documentation on a vendor's website. You can also export directly as a PDF. Let's see, that's going to render in Edge. So you can see a slightly different look with the code formatting, but still, you know, still a very professional looking document. And that was all, you know, using one language, exported to many different formats, which, you know, like I said, doesn't really have a complex set of syntax to learn. So I'm going to go ahead and save this out to my GitHub page real quick. Go ahead and commit it, and that's going to be out on my GitHub page now. So David, I'll give you that link to send out there, folks, if they want to see the example file for reference, along with some of the other links and stuff that I want to share out with the group. But that's pretty much it. You'll see that, you know, like I said, Markdown's used in quite a few different places, especially with like Microsoft Docs. So let's go out to Docs, Microsoft.com. I'll just pull up sysinternals. I was on that page the other day. And this entire document is available out on GitHub as Markdown. Microsoft uses their own flavor of Markdown. They've got their own style guide that you want to use. But if you can read Markdown, you can go through and you can change these documents fairly easily. A lot of other places they're using Markdown. The Linux man pages are all written in Markdown. At least the online versions are. A lot of code examples you see, you know, just out and about are generally written with Markdown. You'll see them in code fences. But yeah, it's a super, like I said, it's a super easy language. I started using it about 1.5 years ago to do some documents because I got sick and tired of having Word documents not rendering properly or sending them to somebody that didn't have the proper version of Word to open up the doc that I created. So I decided to simplify things, and the simplest way I found was to basically, you know, learn Markdown. And at first it seemed like it was daunting because I'd heard about other people using it, and I was like, great, you know, another web programming language I'm going to have to learn. I already fried my brain on learning or trying to learn CSS. So if anybody's had experience with that, you probably understand what I'm talking about. Change one thing in CSS and it breaks a lot of stuff. HTML, you know, is getting a little more complicated in my opinion, especially with the new HTML5 tags. So, you know, that kind of turned me, you know, off initially. And then I got to look into the common mark syntax and was pretty flabbergasted by how easy it was. And I, you know, kind of took a hard look at some of the documentation that I was writing, and I was like, you know, I use all of these sections. So I just started using Markdown to write blogs, using Markdown to write my own self-documentation for some of my own code that I write. Started doing, most recently, started doing presentations with Markdown using the Marpet. Let me just go ahead and pull that page up here real quick, because if you're not doing presentations with Mark, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice. It's a lot easier, a lot cleaner to use than what PowerPoint is, in my opinion, especially when you're trying to do code examples, because then you don't have to copy and paste screenshots per se into your presentation. You can actually just put a code fence in and it'll render properly. So let's go Marpit. So the website address is marpit.marp.app. If you go out here, they've got plenty of documentation on how to get started with it. You can see here it uses, go here, directives. So Marpit uses directives within Markdown. So you'll see that you might see this at the top of the document, but as soon as you put that there, for example, VS Code will start to render Marpit syntax with that extension installed. And then after that, you can use just regular Markdown. So you can change background colors, you can change headings. As you can see here, they got page 1, which is a heading level 1, and that's the Markdown code right there. So example, here's more Markdown. So there's one slide, second slide, third slide, done. When it renders out, it looks really nice and neat. Let me go back to my example here. Okay. What do I want to do here? Let's hoping that would actually. No, it's not going to render like I want it to. Let me find it elsewhere here. Okay, so this is a sample of the presentation I did. Like I said, it was in Markdown. I'm just going to go ahead and click through here. I added some images. Just some real quick examples. So see, these were just simple code blocks within Markdown. And if any of this looks familiar, it's actually from last November's Pester talk I gave. So I decided to record, basically re-record it for VMware Code. So you see here, change background with CSS. This was an actual code block that I actually created, so it's not a screenshot. And this was an animated GIF I recorded, placed in that. So it will render animated GIFs. And again, you'll see I've got different links that you can click on here. So click on one, go straight to the web page from the actual presentation. So with those, like I said, it's an HTML file that's already been rendered. So you can copy and paste this code directly into a static website and leaf through it. You can copy out the PDF and place it on a file share somewhere. Or you can just leave it as just plain Markdown and import it into different documentation resources, such as I know Confluence is able to import some of the Markdown language into their online product. I don't believe it does very well with the on-premise version of Confluence, but there's a lot of different knowledge management systems out there that actually do support Markdown by default. So another good reason why learning a little bit of Markdown actually is very versatile, because you saw right here, you can use it with presentations, you can use it for documentation, Let me show you the resume that I built using Markdown. Go back here. That's the wrong repo. Where did it go? Okay, now I'm annoyed. Got 16 repos, but I can't see them all. Yeah, let me go back to Markdown. Nope, not there. Well, this is embarrassing. I can't find my own resume that I had in my, oh, now I believe I know where
John deleted it.
Yeah, probably. Let's see here. Maybe it's in my gists. I think maybe it's where I put it. Yep, there it is. So it took me a second to remember where I put my own stuff. I'm absent-minded, sorry. But as you can see here, this is a resume that I created that's completely written in Markdown again. Right now, I can just give this link directly to a recruiter or somebody that wants to see my resume on demand. Just say, here's a link, go to it, and it's just there. Makes it really easy to update. So say, for instance, if John decided that next week I wasn't needed anymore, I could go in here and be like, hey, I worked for so-and-so for 2 months, and now I'm looking again. So, and it only takes a couple of keystrokes to get that done. But the nice thing is about I can, still source control Markdown. It renders nice and neat on GitHub's webpage. As you can see here, this is the rendering that it does by default because it recognizes the Markdown format when you put them in gists. So with that, that's really all there is to it. Markdown, like I said, is the formatting language of the internet. As a sysadmin, it's something you should learn. It's pretty easy to learn. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, just, where to reach me, just hit me up on LinkedIn, Twitter, through the VMUG Slack channel. I'll be more than happy to help you out with any of the formatting questions that you might have. And that's it for me.
I got a couple questions for you.
Shoot.
Is there a way to align your text, whether left, right, centered?
You can. By default, everything's going to go basically left justified. The nice thing about Markdown is that you can actually inject HTML tags into it. So if you're rendering the Markdown as HTML, it'll pick up on those tags and format your text appropriately. You'll see that actually used quite a bit in the Marpit application when you're creating Markdown-based presentations. You can actually put tags directly in it, and even CSS or CSS formatting tags directly in, the entire slide deck or on a per slide basis, and it'll render that at the end. It might not look pretty when you're typing it all up, but when you export the actual HTML, it should recognize all that and format your code or your text appropriately.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking in some of the tables, it might be nice to have some of them centered. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a matter of just playing around with it, like I said, and finding the correct HTML tags. But if you're just if you're concerned with only sticking with just plain Markdown, those HTML formatting tags are really unnecessary, because in anything that's going to read Markdown, it's going to format them left justified anyways, and it'll have all the appropriate headers and some of the formatting, basic formatting that you'll need. That's one of the reasons why using the common mark standard is actually the easiest to learn, because there's actually so few tags that you need to know. If you start getting into some of the other flavors, they've got additional tags that you can use, or different methods to do some of that formatting, but you don't see those used a whole lot, and it starts to make some of that not as cross-platform or readily available as it would be if you were sticking with just the straight common mark syntax.
Okay. I had another question, but I forgot, and I'll ask you later if I remember.
Thanks, Bill. That was awesome. I've always kind of wondered, because of all the internet personalities talk about it, make it seem more complicated than it actually is.
It's not. Like I said, I was pretty intimidated at first by it, but then I just sat down literally in an afternoon, and I was like, wow, why didn't I learn this a long time ago? Because it really is. Once you start doing a little bit of practice with it, you'll start to find that, man, you don't open Word up anymore. You need to make something bold. You're just automatically doing the double asterisk and then typing whatever it is you're wanting to make bold, and ending it with a double asterisk and moving on.
But for me, it'll be more like if I'm writing documentation or something, you're not focusing on the formatting as you're writing. Right.
And that's actually one of the nice things about Markdown is that it alleviates that. So you don't need to sit and focus on formatting like you would in Word or PowerPoint, or
right. Or literally writing in the Notes app on iOS.
Yeah, you're literally just
whatever you got.
I'm just typing text. That's all I'm typing, and I don't have to worry about not having an application to read it. I can still use my native tools. I can use Vim. I can use Nano. I can use Notepad plus. If I need to type something up in VS Code and then transfer it to another system that doesn't have any of those apps, as long as it's got a text editor, you don't have to worry about not being able to read it. And that's what really appealed to me, is that, when at my previous employer, when I was in different environments, I couldn't just install apps willy-nilly. Well, if I needed documentation, I wanted the simplest, most, universal thing I could use, and that was a plain text file. So, if I wanted it to look nice when I would render it, I wanted to use Markdown, and it did well for me. Like I said, I've kind of fallen in love with it, and it's, being able to do presentations in it now is actually just, blowing my mind, because I can make simple presentations, because that's all I want to do. I don't need, fancy transitions or anything like that. I just want code examples and plain text with maybe a nice looking background, and that's it.
Well, that looked just totally fine. But so that markup service, is that just a specific service, or is that standard built around Markdown?
Well, it's built around Markdown. So basically it's a rendering engine. So it will recognize its own syntax, and it'll render Markdown appropriately to what it uses to basically create those slides. It used to be just called MARP, but the code has been refactored and updated, so now it's called MARP-IT. That's what everything's kind of migrated to, and it's actually a little bit easier to use now than what it used to be. But yeah, there's a couple people I know from VMware Code this year that I've talked to online that actually did their presentations using Markdown as well. So it's seeming like it's starting to gain a little bit more popularity, especially within the sysadmin community and others that I've kind of hung around in, especially when people start to get to know how, just how easy the syntax is, and the ability to focus on the text and the content instead of the formatting.
Are there other ways to do?
Yeah, I started using. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, sorry. Are there other ways to do the presentations other than Marpit, or is Marpit sort of?
Not that I've found. Marpit's really kind of if you're looking for something free, I should say. Let me back that up. So if you're looking for something free, Marpit is the way to go. There are other applications out there. I'm drawing a blank on them at the moment. Let me see if I got it saved here in my link list.
And do you know of any?
Get Pitch. That's the other one I'm thinking of. Get Pitch. So GIT pitch. Using that one, it's actually a subscription service. It's not real expensive. It's like, well, looking at their website, it's $8 a month for just a single user license, but you can attach it to your personal GitHub account and dump all your markdown in that and use their git pitch syntax to create live slide decks. I've seen a couple of these used in the past at VMware or the VMUG user meetup in Indianapolis. And, was kind of impressed with some of the quality of the presentations down there because it was just simple stuff. They had a, plain Jane slide deck with just plain text, and it was mostly code examples I remember seeing. But I remember talking to the person that presented it, what they were using. They told me about git pitch, and I was like, oh. And that kind of got me started with investigating Markdown a little bit more and trying to use it. But that was that when I started using that was back before they started charging for it. Because I remember being able to get a free plan pretty easily. So this new pricing thing, I think, is a little new. But they have tutorials available that you can get on YouTube and watch on basically how to do quick presentations using that platform. And there's a few others out there. I want to say it's Hackmd is another one of those online editors that I think does presentations as well. Let's see, hack.md.
And Doran put a link in the group chat for a site that has a download. You can do it, so you don't have to actually be online to do it.
Right. Yeah, hackmd.io is one of them too. But it also has a pricing structure. It's not a free editor. If you're looking at the free online editors, Dillinger.io is like one of my top favorites, just because it's just simple and plain. It's also been around quite a while too. And then StackEdit. StackEdit has a lot of integration and a little bit better of a GUI, where if you don't want to remember the code, you can actually click on buttons and it'll just put it in there for you. So if you're kind of used to more of the traditional, basic stuff, then you'd use StackEdit. But if you already know those, if you already know the syntax you need to use and the characters to make that formatting happen, then Dillinger.io is the way to go. It's just, it loads fast, it renders, and you could save directly as HTML, PDF, and Markdown directly from it. So that's one of the reasons why it's my favorite.
I've been using it a little bit inside of VS Code with the Markdown extension installed. Mm-hmm. That seems to work pretty well.
There's also a note-taking application too called VS Notes that uses Markdown. So you can actually have your note-taking application within your code editor, which is, I don't know. It's almost like VS Code has a lot of stuff that just kind of sucks you in and keeps you in that editor all day long.
Yep.
There's another couple of note-taking applications. Joplin is another fantastic one. If you're a fan of like OneNote and Evernote and some of those other note-taking applications, but you're kind of getting burned out on having to pay for some of those and then not being able to do certain things in one platform or the other, Joplin is a really cool tool that is straight Markdown. Everything's Markdown in that application. You can sync it with OneDrive, Dropbox, and a few other file sharing services, so you can literally take your notes anywhere. They even have a portable installer too that you can put on a flash drive and just run anywhere, unless you have like Carbon Black or something like that blocks executables from running off flash drives, and then it just suddenly deletes your Joplin install. Not that that's happened to me before, but just a heads up.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Great. Thanks, Bill. That was really good.
Yep. Just to add one more. there's two different kinds of cheat sheets you can use. I'll have David send out the link for Common Mark, which, like I said, is the one that you want to stick with. But if you're on GitHub a lot and you want to use GitHub style, it's slightly different, but it's very similar. Also add a link to that as well. And that's all I've got.
All right, thanks. That was really good. I learned more about it than I thought I would. I thought I knew more than I did about it, but that'll make my documentation a little easier, knowing more of that. I struggle with that sometimes.
I think we all
documentation in general.
Yeah, nobody likes to do it. Nobody likes to do it, but it's something that has to be done. So why make it more difficult than it has to be? Just, if you want to make it look some pretty, then use Markdown and just focus just on the plain text aspect of it. So.
Nice. All right. Does anybody have anything else you want to discuss, or otherwise we're pretty good. And we'll do our best to have a meeting scheduled for next month, and hopefully sometime we can meet again in person. If VMUG will ever allow us to. So I got tons of giveaways that are just stacking up that we don't really have funds in our account to ship out to everybody. So
I actually have another one too. I was wanting to know if it'd be okay to raffle off and give away. Bear with me just a moment. See where it goes. It's been one I've been kind of excited to give away, but I haven't had an opportunity to yet. It's a special hardback edition. Now, of course, can't see it that well. It's
background.
Yeah. Let me see if I get it in front of me. There we go. Shell of an Idea. It's the Don Jones. Pretty much the untold history of Powershell. A very good book. If anybody's even curious about knowing a little bit of the history, it's a fantastic book. And I would be more than happy to give away one of the 2 copies I have. So if we want to set that up as a raffle at the next meeting, we could do that, or we can raffle it now. It doesn't matter to me.
I'm good either way. I don't know. I think the hard part with this would be getting it to people. I mean, unless you're willing to ship it. We haven't any sponsors this year. We don't have any money to spend on anything. So
yeah, I'd be more than happy to ship it too, because I think Justin's got another book that, it was back in February. We were going to try to raffle off, and then of course COVID hit, and I believe it's Powershell for sysadmins. I believe it's a book from Adam Bertram. So I think Justin's still got it. I have to ask him, but that was another book that I was hoping to raffle off as kind of a a gift from myself to the group.
Yeah. I was glad we were able to put something together. It's been an interesting summer. Outside of the COVID stuff, it's just been really, really busy. Each month it's like, oh, time to schedule another meeting, and we kind of missed it a couple months. So, but I do appreciate everybody attending. We will post this on YouTube as well, and Bill, once you give me the links and such, I will make sure that's posted with the video, and I'll also will email it out to everybody here. So yeah. All right.
Awesome.
I guess we will call that a night.
Awesome. Well, have a great rest of your week, everyone, and thanks for watching.